Good evening, everyone. Guys, am I audible? Yeah, thank you. The last sessions we were discussing with different VPN technologies. So, we have seen what is IPsec site-to-site VPN, and then what is IPsec remote access VPN. So, site-to-site VPN will be required when you need secure communication from one office to the other office. That is, between two different networks, you will need a site-to-site VPN. And when you speak about a user connecting from their home to the office network, you would need remote access VPN, right? So site-to-site VPN is when you want secure communication from your network to your branch network, or maybe from your network to your office network and all, right? Your client network. But when it comes to this user home to office, you will go with remote access VPN. But if you observe, when you go with site-to-site VPN, you don't need to install any kind of software. There is no software involved, right? When you are going with the site-to-site VPN, right? But when you go with the remote access VPN, you will need a software, right? So when you go with the remote access VPN, you will need a software, right? Now, why do we need that software? What is the importance of it? Why do we need the software in remote access VPN? So the reason why we are going with the client application is when you speak about establishing secure communication between user home to the office network. There's one small problem when you compare it with the site-to-site VPN, right? So the problem is, in case of site-to-site VPN, you are defining what is the uh, remote side public IP address. So in the Hyderabad device, you are defining what is the public IP address of the Delhi network. And in Delhi network, you are defining the public IP of Hyderabad network. So you always have some authentication. If request is coming from so and so IP address, I have to respond. If request is coming from a different IP, I don't have to respond. So you always have that information. But the challenge with the remote access VPN is, do we know what is the IP address of the end user computer? So we do not know what is the IP address of the end user's computer. So we will not be able to say if request is coming from so and so IP address, you have to accept it. Right? So to overcome that, we are saying you go with user authentications. Okay, but can't we perform user authentication through a web browser? So when I speak of user sending a request and firewall trying to perform user authentication, can't we do it using a web browser? We can do authentication using a web browser also, right? Authentication can be done even through a web browser. But the challenge is, what about the security that is offered by a web browser? If I speak of communication through internet, so you just go with a web browser and you are trying to connect with the firewall. So can we say a web browser will give you with proper communication security? A web browser may not provide us with the same kind of security that you see in a site-to-site VPN between two different gateway devices. So here, to give you with better security, right? To give you with better security, we are going with IPsec VPN client, right? So to provide us better security, we are going with the IPsec VPN client. So that's the main reason why we are going on with the client application, why we have to install the client application. So is it clear, everyone? Okay. So now let us also speak about what are the challenges of having this IPsec VPN client. Now, IPsec VPN client is available for your Windows, is available for Linux, is available for Mac OS. But there's one challenge. The challenge is this application has to be installed by the administrator on the end user computer, right? So on the end user computer, administrator has to install this application, right? So end user on their own will not be able to install this application and do all the configuration. They will not be able to define all the details, right? So once administrator has to install it, right? You have to install it, and then user can start using this application from their home network and all, and they'll start accessing it. Now the challenge here is, let's say I'm your employee, right? I'm in a remote location and unfortunately my computer had a problem, right? So because of this problem, I have to format the computer, or maybe I have to use a different system or maybe something else, right? So in such condition, will I be able to use IPsec VPN client? So I'll not be able to use a IPsec VPN client if I'm in a remote location and unfortunately my computer has crashed, or maybe my application has some problem or something. Right? I'll not be able to recheck all that. Right? I don't know all these details. Right? So to overcome these issues, right, a different VPN is given, something called SSL VPN. To make things simple, SSL VPN is given. Now, when you speak about this SSL VPN, if you see the SSL part, right, this is the same SSL technology that we are using in our HTTPS connections, right? So, this is the same SSL technology that we are using on the HTTPS connections, right? So, here, because I'm using the same technology, the same SSL technology, can I just use a simple web browser to go with a VPN connection? So because SSL VPN uses a simple HTTPS connection, right? Will I be able to use a web browser for my VPN connections? So that's the main idea of SSL VPN, right? So in case of SSL VPN, right, you are going to use a web browser for the VPN connection. Right? You are going to use a web browser for the VPN connection. But just now we were discussing about the web browser and how web browser will not be able to give you with very good level of security. So if I use SSL VPN, should I compromise on the security part? Did you understand my question, guys? When we are discussing about IPsec remote access VPN client, right? We said because web browser is not able to give you with very good security, right? We are trying to use a dedicated client application. But now I'm saying in SSL VPN, to make things simple, to make things easy, we are going to use a web browser for our VPN connection. Right. So here, even though we are using web browser itself, right, you are not going to depend on the security provided by the web browser itself, right? You're not going to depend on the security provided by the web browser itself. What we do is, along with the web browser, we use Java installed on the user computer. We use Java installed on the user computer, right? And here Java take cares of all the encryption part. Java will take care of all the encryption part, right? Once the data is encrypted by Java, then using our web browser, we will send the request to internet. Okay. So whatever data we have to send from our user computer to the firewall, right? We have to first encrypt it using Java. Right. So you don't manually do it. Your your SSL VPN will automatically do that. Right. So it will encrypt everything using Java and then forward it to your firewall. Now firewall will do the decryption part, understand what exactly is your request, and then send it to internet. Sorry, send it to the respective client in the local network. Right. So is that clear, everyone? When you are using SSL VPN, what actually happens? You are still using web browser, but instead of just a simple web browser, you are also going to use Java along with the web browser. You are going to use Java along with web browser so that Java will take care of all the data encryption part and web browser is only taking care of your data transportation part. Okay. So is that clear, everyone? Vijay, when you say DOS attack has nothing to do whether you are using web browser or not. Right. So DOS attack is like you're trying to target the server and send too many requests to the server. Right. So uh, it's not only possible when you are using a web browser, even if there is no web browser involved, if too many requests can be sent to the server, your server will be compromised with a DOS attack. Okay. So now coming back to our SSL VPN part. So as I said, here we are going to use Java along with the web browser to give us better encryption, right? So you can also call this SSL VPN as a clientless VPN. So you don't need a client application, right? So all you need is define the VPN configurations on your firewall or on the gateway. So once the VPN configurations have been defined, the next step, let the end user authenticate using their user ID and password. So once the authentication is successful, right, they'll be able to access the local network resources. So that's how simple and straightforward it is. But now, if you guys have been observing the way how our web browsers are moving forward in the last 2 to 3 years, how our web browsers have been working, are our web browsers supporting Java now? Our web browsers, are they supporting Java integration now? Unfortunately, no. Right. Our web browsers are not supporting Java integration now. It's been nearly 4 years, right? One by one, web browsers have stopped supporting Java integration, right? So now, if Java integration is not supported, how do we go ahead? Can we still use SSL VPN without Java integration on the web browsers? So if you only want to use it from a web browser, it will not be possible. But what these firewall vendors have done, they have integrated Java and the web browser component, right? So they have integrated Java and web browser component, and now they started giving you SSL VPN client. They started giving you SSL VPN client, which contains the web browser component as well as the Java, because your web browser on the PC is not supporting Java directly. So now they have given you a new software which has both the browser component and also the Java component. So using this SSL VPN client, now you will be able to use the SSL VPN for communication. But again, you may be thinking, if I need to install a client, is it not same as the IPsec VPN? Will it be the same as IPsec VPN? Again, a client is involved here. So not exactly same as IPsec VPN. So in IPsec VPN, you actually have many parameters to be defined and all. But when it comes to the SSL VPN client, it's not the case, right? So for you to start with the SSL VPN, you will first use your web browser, connect to the firewall. You'll first use the web browser, connect to the firewall, perform user authentication. Once the user authentication is done, then your firewall will give you SSL VPN client that is compatible with your computer's operating system. Right? Firewall will give you the SSL VPN client that is compatible with your system's operating system. Right. So if your computer has Windows, it will give you a Windows client. If your computer has Linux, it will give you a Linux client. If your computer has Mac, it will give you the Mac OS compatible client. Right. So the client software will be given. You just have to install it, just like any other software, like how you install a VLC player or maybe Notepad application or Java and all. And just next, and finish. So once it is installed, you'll have to again give your firewall or your router, your gateway IP address, give the username and password. No need to give any VPN tunnel names, no need to define what do we say, your pre-shared keys. You don't have to define any kind of SA lifetimes and nothing, right? You just give the IP address of the firewall where you have to connect to for VPN, give the user ID, give the password. Once you are authenticated, your VPN is established. Everything will be taken care by the firewall itself. Will that be simple? Even if I have to ask a non-technical person to connect via VPN, will they be able to do it? Just use a web browser, give the user ID password, authenticate. So once authentication is done, they'll get a software, install the software, next, and finish. Again, give the username and password. So even a non-technical person, right, will be able to do this, right? So this will be much easy when we compare it with what is supposed to be done on the IPsec VPN client, right? So we'll see now how do we do the configuration for this SSL VPN on the firewall, then how we can use the SSL VPN client from the user computer. So let me connect to ASDM. Okay, so once we are connected to ASDM, to start with SSL VPN configuration, we go to Wizard, VPN Wizard, and select AnyConnect VPN Wizard. So here, AnyConnect is the name of the client application that Cisco is giving you, which can handle your SSL tunnels. So we say start a AnyConnect VPN Wizard. Say next. It will ask you what will be the name of your SSL VPN. So let me just give a name, SSL tunnel. Right. Say next. Now it is saying like, do you want to handle both IPsec VPN and SSL VPN or only SSL VPN? I say, I only want SSL VPN through AnyConnect, right? I don't need IPsec. Say next. So once you say next, here administrator has to give the location of the Windows, Linux, and Mac OS client application. So as I said, once the user is authenticating from their computer, firewall will give them with a firewall will give them with a SSL client that is compatible to their computer, right? So how firewall is going to give you with the compatible client application? So administrator has to define all those details here, right? So this is only done by the administrator. End user or the client has nothing to do with this, right? So here on the firewall flash memory itself, you have the AnyConnect client application for Linux, Mac OS, and also Windows. So I'm defining all the details. So I'll give the Linux, Mac OS, and Windows client locations. So I'm just telling the firewall, you try to identify the operating system of the user computer. Based on the operating system, you give them access to download any of these applications. So if it is from a Windows computer, it will give you access to download the Windows version. If it is Linux, it will give you the Linux version. If it is Mac, it will give you the Mac OS version. And in the next step, it is asking you how will you go with the authentication. Do you want to go with internal database or external database? I say I'll go with the internal database. Let me create a user account. So I'm giving a username Zoom and password as Zoom. And then similar to what we did in IPsec VPN, this is also asking us to define a pool of IP addresses. So one IP address from the pool will be assigned to the user computer after VPN is successfully established. So let me create a pool of IP address. So let me say this is a VPN pool. So I'll give a pool of IP addresses which are not in the same subnet as my LAN network. So I'm taking something like 192.168.50.10 to 50.20. So my LAN network is 192.168.20.0. So I'm taking up a different network, 192.168.50.0 network. Say OK. So the VPN pool is defined. Then I can say next. Now, if you have some DNS servers, you can define them. If not, you can skip that. It's not mandatory. And then I say, once the VPN is established, end user should be able to access my local network, which is 192.168.20.0. Say next and finish. So this configuration will be sent to your firewall, right, from AHDM. So once it is done, you can now start checking this SSL VPN from the internet system. So let us do that. So we have done the configuration through SSL VPN wizard. So once it is done, next we will try to see how exactly end user can download the SSL VPN client. So on my system, I already have the SSL VPN client, but I'll also show you how end user can download it. So we have to connect to the firewall, HTTPS and the firewall IP address. So it will ask you to authenticate yourself. So I give my username Zoom, password as Zoom. So once I authenticate, see here, firewall has identified my operating system version and it is giving me a link to download the AnyConnect software. And this you will be downloading from your firewall itself. So you don't have to go to any third-party website and download it. So when I click on it, as you can see, it's giving me the .exe version because I'm trying to access this from Windows computer. It is giving me the version which is compatible to Windows operating system. If I do the same request from Linux, it will give me the version which is compatible to Linux. If I do it from a Mac, it will give me the Mac compatible version, right? But all these images have to be defined by the administrator when VPN is being configured, right? Okay. So as I said, on my system, I already have this application installed. So this is how the application looks like. So all we need to do is give the IP address of the firewall. So what is the IP address of the firewall? Same IP that we have used on the web browser, and say connect. So now this application will establish a VPN connection, right? Firewall will ask you what is your user ID and the password. So you'll have to provide the login credentials. Once the login credentials are verified, then you will be authenticated. Okay, so I'm giving my username Zoom and my password as Zoom. So once it is done, it will try to establish the VPN connection. Okay, so as you see, it says I am connected to the VPN. Now, if I check for the IP address on my external computer, I should have that 50 dot series IP address. So as you see, 192.168.50.10. So I got an IP address from the VPN pool that is configured. Right. So this is again similar to what happened in the IPsec VPN. You will be given with IP address in the subnet that is configured on the firewall. Right. So now let me say I want to access that LAN computer. So I'm trying to take a remote desktop of that LAN computer. So once I provide the user ID and password, as you can see, my remote desktop is established. So is this one simple SSL VPN compared to the IPsec configuration and connectivity? Yes. So for remote access connections, you have two options. You can either go with IPsec remote access VPN, or you can go with SSL VPN. For site to site, it is always IPsec, and anyway, as a end user, you will not even find any difference, right? So administrator will do the configuration once, and once it is configured, as long as you have the same settings, the same parameters, right? Your IPsec VPN will continue, right? So no issues with the site-to-site VPN, right? But when it comes to the remote access VPN, you have two options. You either go with IPsec or SSL. So this is how you will be able to securely connect from your home network to office network. So is it clear, everyone? If user wants to access more than one network, you can give it as a first, you can give the local network, and then you can define the second network, or say if you have multiple networks, you can add all the group of those networks. You will be creating multiple profiles, right? So SSL profile 1, which is only permitting 20.0 network. SSL profile 2, which is permitting 20.0 and 30.0 networks. So you'll also assign which user will have what profile. So user A will have a profile which is only permitting 20.0. User B will have a profile which is permitting 20.0 and 30.0. So based on the requirement of the user. Okay, so this is how you go with the VPN configurations, right? And the next step that we have to discuss is how do we monitor our networks, right? How do we monitor what is happening in the networks, right? How exactly we can monitor, and how we can find out if is everything working all right, or is there some kind of a problem, right? How exactly we can do that, right? So that I'll discuss in the next session, but let me give you uh, this link for your exam preparation and all. So here in the chat, I'm giving you a link. It's a Telegram group where you have exam dumps, right? So you can go through the exam dumps. It will help you for preparation. Have you all taken the link? Guys, have you copied the link? Okay. So this will lead you to a Telegram group, right? So you'll need Telegram application on your mobile, right? So when you open the link, it will take you to the Telegram group, right? In the Telegram group, you have exam dumps, right? Right. So when you go with the exam, right? In exam, you will have 100 questions, right? So they'll be asking you 100 questions in the exam. So all questions will be like multiple choice type, right? So all the questions will be multiple choice type. Okay. So in some questions, they will directly ask you a question like say, to find out what operating system is installed on a server, which website do you access, right? So in some cases, they'll directly ask you with the question, which is a straightforward thing, right? You have to see what all options are provided and choose the correct answer. And in some questions, they give you a scenario and they ask you questions based on the scenario. So you'll have to first understand what is the scenario they are asking. And according to that particular scenario, you'll have to choose the correct answer. What would be the correct option for that particular scenario, right? And as I said, all are multiple choice type. So you don't have to write anything in descriptive, or you don't have to do some practical or something, right? All are multiple choice questions. 100 questions will be given. You have to score 60, right? You'll have to score 60 to clear the exam, right? So 60 is the minimum score that you need to clear the exam, right? So once you are done with the exam, then you'll be given with a certificate. You'll be receiving the certificate on the email address what you have provided for the voucher registration and all, right? Is it clear? Yes, when it comes to the exam, right, your exam duration will be 2.5 hours, right? So after 2.5 hours, it will automatically cut off the time period, right? So you'll have to complete the exam within 2.5 hours duration. Vouchers are not yet sent, Mr. Bright, right? Vouchers will be sent after we complete the session. So most probably in the next week, you will be receiving the vouchers, right? So along with the voucher, you will see what is the voucher code, and also they give you some, what do we say? They give you a voucher expiry date, right? So how long would the voucher be valid? So you'll have to complete your exam before the voucher expiry, right? So generally it will be around 1 month of duration, right? So within that 1 month before the voucher expiry date, you'll have to complete your exam. No negative marking, right? So no negative marking in the exam. So if you choose a wrong answer, you will not get a mark for it, but no negative marking. And when you're writing the exam, make sure that you don't have any kind of plugins which might interrupt with the web browser activities, right? So in some cases we have seen like some download managers or maybe some ad blockers, they might interrupt with the exam proceeding, right? So check if you have any such kind of plugins, right? Of course, all these precautions are also given in the telegram groups. You will also be able to read that, right? And when you're taking the exam, try to do it from a network where you have good bandwidth, right? You'll have the 2.5 hour duration, right, for the exam. So the 2.5 hours, your internet connection should be stable, right? And if there are any kind of downloads going on in the background, maybe your browser updates or your system Windows updates or something like that, right? So first, let all those updates complete, and then go with the exam, because sometime what happens, your operating system will try to give different priorities, right? So there will be a issue there, right? If your internet connection is not stable, you'll not be able to complete the exam, right? Shaharish, for you to clear the exam, you'll have to score 60. And exam can be taken from any location, right? So you can take it from your home or your office, wherever you have proper internet bandwidth, right? Uh, Vijay, exam voucher, as I said, it will be like around 1 month, right? So around 1 month, you'll have the validity. So within that 1 month, you'll have to take the exam. Exam will be only for one attempt. Yeah. Certificate will be valid for lifetime, so you don't have to keep renewing the certificate. Any other queries? Harish, when you say if your internet connection is not stable or it is disconnected, as I already said, if your internet connection is not stable, it will be lost. Vijay, as of now, you'll have to access the lab manual through the link that I have given, right? So if there is any other update, I'll let you know. That's what Vijay was saying. If there is any other update, I'll let you know. Regarding the job assistance part, right? You can register in zoomincareers.com, right? So there you'll be able to give your details and your skill set, and also accordingly they'll be sending you the job requirements and the opening details and all those, right? Mr. Bright, when you're doing the practicals, if you are having some issue or you have some difficulty, you can always message me on WhatsApp. I'll be accessible there. Calls I may not be able to take up if I'm in a client location or I'm in some forensic labs, right? So I'll not have access to the mobile. You can give me a WhatsApp message. I'll be able to check and respond. You have Telegram installed, Bhargav? Okay, so when you go with this Telegram, right, you should be able to see a group CSP exam discussion. The CSP exam discussion is the Telegram group name. Okay, so any other queries? See, exam you'll have to take. I'm not sure like whether I'll be in office or I'll be in a forensic investigation or somewhere. So while you're taking the exam, I may not be able to help you. So prepare well, so that will be easy. See, it's not too difficult. So if you are clear with the concept and you prepare well for the exam through that dumps and all, it will be easy. Not a very difficult task to clear the exam. Yes, Vijay, if you are clear with the concepts and you are clear with the dumps, right, that will be more than sufficient for you to clear the exam. Guys, exam dumps itself mean the questions that are given in the previous exams, right? Is that clear? The exam terms what I have shared you are those questions uh, which have already come in the previous exams when other students have taken. Yes, you can go through those 270 questions. Okay, so you can start preparing for the exam, right? So as I said, you'll be getting the vouchers most probably by the next week, right? Also keep doing your practicals, because when they ask you some questions based on some kind of a scenario, right, unless you have done the practical you will not be able to visualize it and then answer correctly, right? So keep doing your practicals, prepare well for the exam, right? And we'll meet in the next session tomorrow and we'll see how do we monitor the network, how do we see what's happening in the network, and how we can check if is everything all right or if there is something suspicious or there is something wrong in our network. Prashant, we'll have one session tomorrow. So that will be the last session. Okay, so with this, I end the session for today. We'll meet tomorrow. Thank you all.